You are now listening to the Dual Position Podcast.
The boys are back to talk all things SuperCoach all season long.
Please welcome your hosts, Whisperer and Brew.
Boy, howdy, Brewski. We are in a world of hurt when it comes to trades, allocations, whatever we're going to do. COVID kind of bailed me out with Harry Grant. What about you?
I own Harry Grant, so that's a little frustrating. Getting an echo here.
Oh, good. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah. Basically, this has been a disaster start. Yeah, trades are at a pivotal because what do we do with Angus? What do we do with Fifita? What do we do with basically the likes of these overpriced guns who just aren't performing? Okay, audio check. Hang on. All right, I'm going to stop this and we'll try again. Oh, 1, 2. Okay. Is that better? Yeah.
Yeah. Now you sound normal.
Okay.
At first,
I was out.
Jesus Christ!
I don't know. Was I bad? Was I?
Oh, shocking! And then everything I said was an echo.
Okay, we're back. Okay, sorry. Geez, I have many thousands of dollars worth of recording equipment that just shit the bed. All right, you're back with the Dual Position Podcast. I'm your host, CSC Whisperer, joined by Brew once again. Round 3, mate. Okay, so pivotal week this week. I feel the week before price rises, and we just have to get them right.
It's moving week. Yeah, it's very tricky, and there's a few surprises today in the team list that make it a little bit tricky. You know, Angus Crichton, for one, makes things difficult. Harry Grant, obviously going down with COVID, that's also making things a little bit tricky as well. So it's going to be an interesting week of trades.
Yeah, as you said, moving week, the week before price rises. I haven't used the trade yet. I managed just to skip trade round 1 with no trades. So I've got a trade boost up my sleeve. I will be using it. We'll be pumping 3 trades. But the question is what we do, because Trent Robinson, mate, has thrown us a massive curveball. But before we get into the Team List Tuesday news, look, round 1 injuries were brutal. Round 2, not so much. But there were still a few key points coming out of round 2 when it comes to injuries. You are the aforementioned doctor on the show, probably the most intelligent one over you and I. So I'll let you give us the injury breakdown as to sort of what happened.
No worries. So what do we have on the weekend? We had, give me a sec, I'll just bring it up.
Well, first things first, David Clemmer apparently had a knee cork. That turned out to be needing surgery, so he's gone for 6 weeks. That's going to maybe mess up the Brew World Order trade plans a little bit.
Is it 6 weeks now?
I think it's 3 to 6, NRL Physio said.
Okay. NRL has him listed as returning round 5, so that's interesting. But we'll get to that. So we've got, for the Raiders, I'll start with the Raiders. I'll do this team by team. Nick Kotrick is a quad injury. He's due back round 3. Croker's a knee injury, back 3 to 4. Schneider, obviously named today. He is back. And Hodgson, the news during the week, is now an ACL in the season. The Bulldogs, no one really of note. We've got Mariners still listed as indefinite. Alamati, the young cheapie, he's around 6 to 8. Cronulla Sharks, Mulatalo, he's listed as a round 4 return. Teague Wilton is suspended until round 4. Wade Graham is ankle injury, returning round 6. Titans don't have too many injuries. They've got Corey Thompson. He's listed as returning in round 4 or 5. At the Sea Eagles, we've got Alawai. He's suspended. He returns in round 4. We've got Josh Schuster listed as a round 6 return. Melbourne Storm have plenty of injuries. Harry Grant, COVID, so obviously he should be back next week. Jordan Grant.
Let's just touch on that Harry Grant one, because one of the most traded in players this week has really bailed me out, because I was fading him for this week, so it makes me feel a whole lot better. There's plenty of reverse trade buttons happening, and it's kind of blue-balled us a little bit. He was named at 4 o'clock, and then 4:15 rolls around, and the Storm said, no, he's out.
Yeah, the man that I should have looped last week, Harry Grant. I've done a lot of people a favour, I think, except for those that jumped on last week or picked him to start the season and sat him out week 1, and, you know, we're loving life this week. All right, continuing on. Tom Eisenhuth for the Storm, listed as a round 5 return. Cooper Johns, round 5. Brendan Smith is back next week, it looks like. And then we've got Welsh Jennings out for the season, obviously. Newcastle Knights, Kellen Ponga was named today, so he should return. Lockie Fitzgibbon doesn't have a timeline, but he's got a knee injury. I believe it's an MCL injury, so that's normally a 4 to 6 week injury. Clemens listed as knee in round 5 by NRL. So I'll have to look into that one and see if there's any more info. Daniel Saifidi listed as being able to return this week. The others aren't too relevant there. Hummel Hunt, round 10 is probably the other one. Cowboys, Ruben Cotter, he's back this week. Snell Brown can be back this week, apparently. Mitch Dunn obviously did his ACL and he is out for the season. Parramatta Eels, Madison's due to come back in round 4. Micah Sevo's listed at mid-season. Sean Russell out indefinitely. Everyone else isn't super relevant there. Penrith Panthers, obviously they got a bit of a list going on as well. Fisher Harris is probably going to be out this week, due back next week, I believe. Cleary's an interesting topic, listed in the 24 today, rumored to be returning this week. So that's an interesting watch there. Mav Geyer back in round 5. He could be an origin prospect for us, so keep an eye on that. Toto is out until rounds 9 to 11, which has opened up Talon May for us all. So that's a pretty serious injury there. And Leota, we can discuss a little bit the replacement for Leota later. He's out till mid-season. No major injuries at South beyond Blake Taff. He's out until round 4. Dragons have Woods till round 3. Sullivan round 3, Maguire and Fui Mayano suspended until round 6, and Max Fagai is not due back until 11. Sydney Roosters, Sam Verrills, he's got a thumb injury. He's due back in round 6. So for those with Connor Watson, keep an eye on that. Butcher and Suwali are pretty much ready to return. That's Egan Butcher, not Nat Butcher. Warriors, Vayela is due back in rounds 5 to 6. I'm personally going to hold Vayela, so I really hope he's back soon. Sean Johnson has a pec injury, due back rounds 5 to 6. DWZ, rounds 8 to 10. He's got a finger injury, and Tohu Harris is mid-season. Finally, the West Tigers. Tuolagi's got a head knock. He's listed as a round 4 return due to HIA protocol, I believe. Little is returning as of this week, is available. Dwayne is rounds 8 to 14. Another interesting watch for this season. And the others are pretty much season injuries and not really relevant. That sums up the injury news.
Very long injury report this week, because I feel like it's crucial just to understand where teams are at, where the rotation's lying, working out your trades moving forward. As I said, round 3 is pretty pivotal, because we've got to get these trades right, setting your team up for the future. The way I've always looked at Supercoach is trade hard early, and then try and hold off for the next month or so, as minimal as possible, to set yourself up sort of heading to Origin. Okay, so the big team list talking points. Siva Talakai is in for Teague Wilton, obviously suspended for the week. We'll see his fate later on. I think a guilty plea he has taken. If he challenged and was unsuccessful, it was 2 weeks. So just the injury, just the one suspension for him there. Tuolagi HIA. Now, people that were in the loop here aren't surprised. I did post on my socials a couple of days ago, expect him to not get named, as he did have a 5-day turnaround for the Tigers, and then was never really gonna get fit after that 7-day HIA. What else do we have here? Angus Crichton benched. This is what we touched on at the start of the show. This has sent me for 6, and Trent Robinson's playing cheeky buggers, and I don't know what's going on here. We'll touch on that when we come to the cells, but Angus Crichton on the bench is one for concern. Nathan Cleary is back, as you mentioned, Brew. Harry Grant has COVID, and little sneaky one here. No Trevelyan for the Raiders on the bench. They've named Matt Frawley on the bench, but the specialised hooker is gone. So Tom Starling, he's one we can touch on in the bye period as well, or even sort of the wait and sees. But that is the team list news. Let's move on to the top 10 most purchased players this week. All right, number 1, Nico Hines. What more is there to say? Very different opinions on this show all preseason. One of us was in the no camp, one of us was in the yes camp. I reckon we leave it at that. Don't say who was on which side, but scores of 70 and then 101. covering for fullback in a class that is underperforming, covering at halfback for a class that is lacking depth and lacking overall guns. No surprise to see him. I think he's 685k off the top of my head. A lot of people are trading out the two big guns at 2RF, and then they're moving some stuff around and then getting Hines in. But I've got no qualms about this one, mate, and there's a reason why I've got no issues when we touch on our trades later on.
Yeah, he's I want him as quickly as I can. I've got too many fires to put out this week to be able to do it. But yeah, I can understand why he's highly sought after.
Number 2 on the list, William Kikau, after 2 back-to-back good performances, sees a lot of teams trading him in for the same reasons as Nico Hines, the 2 underperforming 2RFs, the big 2. Bit of a cash grab here from William Kikau, but I would not be surprised to see the roller coaster plummet this week.
Yeah.
You have gone.
He never really has.
You cut it in and out there. Sorry, mate. Go again.
I don't think he can keep it up, week in, week out. So he's due for probably a down week. But the way he's going, there is huge upside there. And if you can pick the weeks to play him, you're going to benefit. So I can understand why people are getting him in.
Number 3 on the most traded in list, Peter Hiku from the North Queensland Cowboys, mid 300k, has 2 very good back-to-back scores, 54 base power, which is Brian To'o levels. Now, do I think that's sustainable? No. But he is definitely someone to be worth considering at 340k.
Who was that, sorry?
Peter Hiku, yeah.
Yeah, Hiku's an interesting one. Obviously, he's got 2 good scores. He's very safe in his position. I can see why people are doing it. Like, their matchup this week's not too bad, obviously. It's much better than, say, Dom Young, for example, who's a similar price and a similar break even going into this week, whereas they've got a really tough game against Penrith. Hiku's got a much easier game. So if you're chasing the points and the cash at the same time, and Hiku's maybe a short-term player, not a long-term player, I can certainly see why people are looking at Hiku.
Pretty sure they play Melbourne and Parramatta. Apart from that, up until round 10 or 11, they're pretty smooth sailing, so their draw is quite ideal. Number 4 is Max King. I mean, people should have had him from the start, but yeah, he's the real deal. He's actually made his way into my starting 13. He's just been a 50-point score at front row forward at 180k. Not a whole lot more to say there. Number 5 on this list is Harry Grant. Expect that to be dropping ASAP. I took these numbers at about 6:30 tonight. But yeah, at 5, moving down. Number 6 and number 7, Jake Clifford and Dane Gagai. Now, you and I crapped all over the Knights all preseason. They've come out and started well. I think they're top of the table. I can't pay this for Gagai. Like, all the points that I've said, I think still remain. Like, he's at a sky-high price. He will rise because he had 2 fantastic games, but I just don't see what upside there is in the Knights. And Jake Clifford, never been fantasy relevant, but has looked more involved. So there is understanding there. Good price. People are moving on from a couple of underperforming guys like Lachlan Ilias, for example. So I can understand it. But yeah, as much as you and I are eating humble pie on the Dane Gagai thing, I still can't get behind him at buying him, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just whether Dane Gagai is going to be one of these guys that this season is the season that maybe he's that guy that just explodes and keeps going with it. Sometimes you find this early in the season, and yeah, I'm not sure. I can kind of see why people are chasing it, but it's probably a little bit too pricey for my liking.
Yes. Number 8, Josh King from Melbourne. With the thing of cheese on the bench, I'm kind of like, But to be honest, I think Greg Bellamy's got no one else to name in the top 30, so they've just named some deep reserves that won't play. I'm still taking NRL Physio's word for gospel here that cheese is probably still another 2-3 weeks away, so there's still some money to be made with Josh King. Number 9, Api Coruscant. Same points we made a couple of weeks ago after his round 1 performance. Looks like he's playing bigger minutes, looks involved, so yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of injuries at Penrith that maybe have inflated his minutes, but if he keeps performing, I can understand it, but for me, it's not a play for me. What are your thoughts on Appy?
Yeah, I don't mind the Appy move at the price. I don't think he's going to be a season-long keeper, but whilst he's going on a tear, like was it last year or the year before, all preseason, the debate was to Appy or not to Appy, and he's injury prone, et cetera, and he came out and killed it that season. I think he ended up making a lot of money, and he was the go-to guy. Maybe he's just doing it all again. Maybe he's found his hot spot again, and he's going to go on a little bit of a run. So I don't hate it. It's not a terrible price at sub 500.
And number 10 on the most traded in people is Payne Haas, despite being owned by like 53%. I think a lot of people are just licking their wounds and antipoded him and bringing him in. Not much more to say about Payne Haas. Moving on to the sells, who is sort of the most top 10.
Dead man walking.
Tommy Turbo is number 1 on the most sold list. Now, this is the one probably I reckon he's been overshadowed a bit by the two back rowers, and we'll touch on them because they both feature in the top 10. But basically, Sunday night, the rage trade debate was, what do we do with Tommy Turbo? I'm in the hold camp. I understand you're going to lose so much money, probably a record amount of cash lost, but you didn't buy him for the first 2 games. He's playing the Bulldogs. For me, he's the best captain option this week. If you own, I feel like you have to hold. What are your stances on Tom Trbojevic? And I'd love to know because our trade talk segment last week, I think, goes down in Supercoach podcasting infamy with what you sprung on me. So as a Tom Trbojevic owner yourself, mate, where are you leaning towards on the turbo, non-turbo debate? Because I will be watching behind my couch. He might absolutely just destroy this Bulldog side.
Look, I'm holding Turbo. I think it would probably be silly to trade him in 1 week and then trade him out the next week. I can understand the reasoning for those that started the season with him. To sell, obviously, you're probably going to be able to pick him up 300k cheaper by around, say, 6.
Who do you sell to, though? Like, is it just Nico? Like, is that who you sell to? Because
Nico or Latrell Mitchell for me.
Because Paps hasn't proven he's worth picking up. Like, he's not a sell, Pappenhausen, but he's not proved he's worth picking up. Latrell has a pretty gross matchup this week against Melbourne. After that, it opens up fantastically. You and I have said this. Teddy had a poor score and a top score, but most people probably would have had Teddy already. So, yeah, it's Latrell or Paps. Latrell or Hines that you pick up if you sell, and I just don't... With what Manly's draw is, I don't know if that's worth it. And that's why I'm holding.
Yeah, I was a little bit torn. So I had a quick look yesterday, in terms of selling him, and Hines was really the guy that stood out for me. It would ultimately be a play where I end up switching him up to 7, and then obviously getting another fullback. Latrell, I don't mind Latrell. I think even against the harder sides, he's still going to be able to, get some junk. And this week he plays the Roosters, and I think next week he plays the Storm.
Trell plays the Storm.
Yeah.
Trell plays the Storm this week, and then from round 4 to like round 22, it's just pretty much smooth sailing.
He's shown that he's high involvement, and that he can certainly, get a lot of junk. So I'd probably get Latrell, to be honest. He's certainly someone that's on my radar.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with Trell too. I just got to work out when we get him because I want to jump on the time right. But Pappenhausen isn't performing. But yeah, I'm really keen on Trell. I've said that all preseason. Number 2 on the list, Tony Staggs. I don't know. Like Staggs, the scores aren't great, but man, he's passing the eye test, and he's one of these guys. I'm really sick of watching Broncos games and not owning him because he could just erupt at any moment. And is this a panic trade? He's going to lose cash, no doubt about it. But at 430k or so, is it really that much of an investment that we're losing out on?
I wouldn't be selling Staggs, and I wouldn't be selling Cobbo's the other one. I've seen people selling Cobbo. I'd hold them both, to be honest. Yeah,
100%. Let's skip number 3 and we'll go to number 4. Brian To'o, he's number 4 most sold player. Pretty self-explanatory. High grade MCL out for 8 weeks. Now, number 3 and number 5 on this list, David Fifita, Angus Crichton. This is where I was alluding to a lot with the buys. Trent Robinson has benched, what's his name? Angus Crichton. Not great. Does play pretty early on in the week, so if you can afford to hold off, then you can see what Robbo does come game day. As for David Fifita, his spot is locked in, but the involvement hasn't been there. And it's, a combined 1.3, 0.5, 1.4 million, something like that between the two of them. A lot of cash to be underperforming when you can pick up other guys like Hamel Olakau'atu, Tyson Frizzell, Isaiah Yeo, all these kind of guys, even Josh Curran for a fraction of the cost that are doing the same thing.
If I had both, so if I had Fifita and I had Angus, I'd probably sell Angus and hold Fifita. In general terms, individually, I think they're both holds. So Angus, I think, will probably be Robbo sending a message. He didn't have a great game last week. He didn't have high involvement. I think he missed a couple of tackles. I think that's just Robbo being Robbo and saying, if you don't play up to my standard, then, I'm going to send you a message. And he's probably sending him that message this week.
When you had both back rowers as well perform quite well, Satilli with 2 tries and that Butcher with his stint off the bench played really well as well. So it's not like he's putting in duds for them. And I don't think this is a long-term play. I think you've hit the nail on the head here with the idea of it being a message sender. But it's worrying, isn't it?
Oh, it's definitely worrying. If I had a team full of all the right cheapies and, a lot of the key guys, then certainly I would make the trade. I would go down to Olakau'atu, to be honest with you. He's the guy that I want. I want him more than I want Kikau.
Yeah, I feel the same. What do you do if you're the Roosters and you come out and blitz South Sydney like 22-6? It's hard to drop Butcher again if he plays well, and I am worried. Butcher will probably rotate through the middle. I'd expect one of the middles comes off, Butcher rotates through, Crichton comes on, and that's probably it. But
Angus could also play in the middle. When he first came to the Roosters, he played in the middle. So it'd be interesting to see what they do.
I got sucked into him. I think was it 2019 his first year? 2019, 2018? I got sucked into him really bad.
Earlier.
I held him for way too long, and he was just coming off the bench for Robbo, and I got sucked in for that. But yeah, even at 60 minutes, I don't particularly want him. Whereas Fifita, doesn't have the best matchup against the Raiders, who are quite a good defensive side. But, he was benched as well last week. I think Holbrook did say he wanted to manage him through the heat, and I think the Titans have a lot of night games coming up, so he is one to probably hold. He's got the ceiling. We'll touch on my trade shortly, but yeah, I'm in that dilemma too. Number 6 on this list, Reid Marnie. I would expect this to drop down the ranks, same as Harry Grant. A lot of the trades were Marnie and the Grant swap. So I'd expect Reid to fall out of the top 10. Lachlan Ilias, number 7. This has to be for Nico Hines, surely. If Nico Hines is number 1 in the most traded in, Lachlan Ilias, number 7, you'd think would be a swap for Hines somehow, because I don't really understand why teams are selling a dual halfback who has had a tough start to the year, but should only get better.
There's not really any money to make there. He's 200K. I think you may as well just hold him, unless it is the case that you're going all the way from him up to Hines, and that's a different story. And I think that might be the case here.
Number 8 and number 9, Damien Cook and Cody Walker both being sold. I would expect Cook to drop out of this list as well with the news of Harry Grant. So these hookers I would take with a pinch of salt. But Cody Walker finally entering the top 10 sell list. I've been calling for it for 2 weeks. It's good to see people are finally listening and jumping off the Cody Walker train. You'll be able to pick him up 500K at this rate, the way he's playing.
Yeah, he's not playing too well. He'll come good. Wait to round 6 or 7. He'll probably be a lot cheaper, and he'll probably be finding his form by then, I'd say.
Someone has just put in the chat, I don't understand why Whisperer is bagging the Ilias trade despite what I'm going to do. Schneider isn't dual and playing, and his position sort of is up in the air after 10 weeks, so that's my reasoning. But we'll touch on that shortly. And number 10, Jackson Hastings. He's out for 2 weeks with a suspension, I'm pretty sure, so makes sense to move him on. Hasn't really done enough to warrant holding. If you can move up to someone like a Dylan Brown or even a Jack Whiten, people would be doing that. That is going to round out the, top 10 buy and sells. Moving on to a segment that I think a lot of people have struggled to nail for the first 2 weeks.
Good afternoon, this is your captain speaking.
Double scores have meant nothing, considering I have captained Teddy and then Fifita for a whopping 140 points between the two of them in the first 2 weeks. I don't think your captain choices have been much better. I think a lot of people have struggled. The looping score has become less and less sort of viable. I'm going to be looping someone very early on in the round, and I'll be taking a 90-point game from them. I'll loop that. But first things first, mate, I have Tom Travoy, which is sort of my number 1 captain choice for the whole week. Plays Sunday night against the Doggies. Doggies have shown some good defensive stability, but we know what Tommy Turbo can do if he's fit and firing.
Yeah, I'm doubling down. I'm going to captain Turbo again this week. He's of all the key guys, he's got probably the best matchup this week. If I had Payne Haas, I'd probably consider Haas as a safe captain as well. I don't have Haas, so I can't do that. So I'll be going to see Turbo this week.
Yeah, I feel like if you own Turbo now, he's one of these guys that can just be a captain for the next 10 weeks just with the draw that Manly have. Number 2, I have Nico Hines as a VC. Plays the very first game of the week against the Dragon side who has leaked points. Nico Hines, I think the Sharks only put up 16 points on the weekend, and Nico Hines scored a ton. He was very, very involved. 25 tackles for a halfback is exceptional. A great floor. And yeah, he should be probably the most VC option, I would say, this week playing the first game.
I also had the exact same thing. I had Nico Hines with a VC next to him, so I agree with that one as well. If I owned Hines, I'd definitely be doing the vice captain.
Number 3 on my list is Payne Haas, where, mate, bring back 2019. We're captain the front row forwards, and I'm all here for it because my glory days were back then. So bring back the pig captaincies. Number 4, I couldn't split them between Ryan Pappenhausen and Cam Munster. They play Souths who have not looked good. So either one of those two could definitely pop off. And yeah, if you don't own Turbo this week, you have a free fullback slot to choose between, Paps or Teddy's to where you want to go for any kind of captaincy. How do you see the Melbourne boys faring out? No Harry Grant is there.
I think Pappy probably is going to get his biggest score out that he's had so far this season. So I did have him as 4th on my list as captain options.
Awesome. Good to see we're on the same page. Number 5, I have James Tedesco coming off the back of an 82-point performance. Just dispelled your comment about him looking unfit. He was looking unreal, and hopefully he can continue. The Roosters don't have an ideal draw, but I mean, they're the Roosters, so move on. And lastly, I've chucked in Viliami Kikau here just because of the upside that he possesses. It's not ideal, but I've just chucked Kikau in there as a bit of a pod move.
I'm positive you got your games wrong this week.
Do I?
The Roosters play South Sydney and the Storm play the Eels. You
okay, yeah.
Before.
Yeah, so I knew they had tough games. I think I just stuffed them up. I mean, yeah, against the Eels side, what they leak 20-something points.
I like Pappy. I like Pappy as an option this week. Yeah, and I don't mind Teddy either against South. You know, South haven't been setting the world on fire by any means. Also, don't mind a sneaky option of a VC on Nathan Cleary if you're an owner.
Oh, huge.
I don't think there'd be many owners, but I don't mind it. You know, it's at Carrington Park. They seem to really like playing out at Carrington Park. Hopefully the weather's nice and sunny, 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon. I don't hate it.
Hey, one thing to note as well, Melbourne's first choice goal kicker is out with COVID this week in Harry Grant. I think that one sent people sideways. I reckon Twitter blew up on that one.
Twitter blew up.
That was shocking. I remember someone messaged me. They were like, "Who's going to goal kick now? Nick Meaney's out." And I was like, "What do you mean? It's Pap." And then 5 minutes later, I see Harry Grant standing behind the tee, and I reckon owners were frothing at the mouth. And then they saw his 2 or 3 conversion attempts, and it was not ideal. But you would expect Pappenhausen to kick, and yeah, against the Eels. I don't know how I feel, mate. You said you really like Pappenhausen as the captaincy this week. Well,
there's no Grant.
He is my captain, but I don't know how I feel if you're endorsing him with the way that both our strike rates have been with captaincies in the first 2 rounds. So let's hope we can turn it around this week.
I never thought I'd captain Teddy and Turbo over the first 2 weeks and have a captain average of about 38.
Yep, I feel you there. Hey, let's move on to high stake hot takes. I've binned off the sound segment because I know that you weren't a fan. Last week, I think I had Whiten under 40. I think he got 48. I had Ponga over 85. He didn't play. I think I had Jerome Hughes under 55. That hit. And then I had Teddy over 100. And he went for like 87 or something like that. So, a couple of close calls here or there. Could have gone either way. This week, I have gone Viliami Kikau under 50 points. I don't know. I guess that's just me hoping that the new buyers get stung. I've got Jason Tamalolo going over 65 in that big battle in the middle against the Broncos. I've got Reid Marnie with the bounce back factor 65 plus against no Harry Grant. The battle of the Queensland Nines. It was looking like it, but now Grant's out with COVID. I've got Reid Marnie having a bit of a bounce back. And, mate, I don't know if you're going to like this one. I've got Daly Cherry Evans to outscore Tom Trbojevic.
Fair game.
Fair game.
Last week I went 2 from 3, actually. I did say Teddy under 50. I think that was wishful thinking, given that I was doing the turbo move.
That was more of a hopeful one.
I said Hines over 75, so he nailed that. And I actually said the Broncos and Dogs game would be an under 6-point margin. So that one came off too. I know a lot of people were expecting the Broncos to touch up the Dogs a little bit, but that wasn't the case. Hot takes for this week. I've got 4 this week. I've got Turbo and Olakawatu to go 200 plus combined.
Oof.
So yeah, that's an interesting one. But
Hey,
scores together over
both
200.
Both of ours can hit. I just need DC to go like 150, and then Turbo can go like 140, and that means he's outscored him. So both of us can lob up there.
We'll see. I got Hines going back to back. I've got him raising the bat again this week.
God, I hope so.
Yep. So given tons are hard to come by, I think that one's quite bold. I've got Stags and or Cobbo both score. Actually, sorry, I read that wrong. Stags and Cobbo scoring a try this week. So I think the bounce back's on this week, that they're going to go right side a bit more, and I've got them both scoring a try. And I've got Latrell Mitchell going 80 plus this week as well. So even though I think playing the Roosters, obviously he got suspended in this game last year. There's a lot of history there. I just think he's going to fire up. He always seems to fire up when he plays the Chooks. And even if the Souths, do get towed up a little bit by the Chooks, I don't think
he's just always involved, isn't he?
I don't think they'll get flogged. I just think he's going to be involved in everything that South Sydney does. So I've got him going 80 plus for the week.
Lovely. Mate, over-unders, the lines I set you weekly. Last week you went 2 from 2 to improve on your round 1 performance of 1 from 4. I set Talatau Moan at 33. You took the unders. He actually had a bit of involvement, and he went for about 50 points, so that one lost. I had Tony Stagg set about 65, and 50% of the Supercoach world was hoping that there was overs, 50% were hoping it was unders, and boy howdy, he did not perform. So you took the overs on Tony Staggs, he went unders. Sam Walker, I said at 57. I think he went for 59, 61, something like that. So he got over the line for you, and I set Reece Walsh at 61, and he also went over for you. So your season tally is 3 wins from potential 8 picks. This week, I have done 2 backs, 2 forwards. I've gone our love child from the preseason, Stefano Utoi Kamanu. Man, I've set him at 47. Where are we sitting on him? Over under 47.
I'll take the overs this week on that.
Overs. Tyson Frizzell, 66.
Penrith. It's an interesting line. I'm going to take the under this week.
Ryan Pappenhausen, 68. I think I know where you lie on this one.
Over.
And Matt Burton, 52.
Dogs play.
Someone. Manly.
I'm going to take the under on Burton, 62 this week.
Right. Stefano, 47 over. Frizzell, 66 under. Pappenhausen, 68 over. Burton, 52 under. Before we get into our trade talks this week, I've had a lot of questions re Tom Starling and where people lie on him. No Adam Trevelyan named on the bench. Now, Tom Starling, we know what he can do when he gets 65 plus. And I'll be keeping a very, very close eye on him. Because if he does get 65 plus, I'm abandoning the Harry Grant ship. And we're going to go Reid Marnie down to Tom Starling next week. But it depends on the minutes. Depends on what Matt Frawley is taking out from the bench. Where are you sitting on Starling? Is he in your plans? Would you downgrade Grant to him? Or are you kind of locked into the Randall? You locked into Randall, Grant. I don't understand selling Randall. Sorry, mate. I just wanted to get this out. I don't understand selling Randall for Starling. I don't know. I just still feel there's some kind of stability with Randall, and what's 100k difference for maybe 13 points thereabouts.
So my plan at the moment is I own Wishart as well as Grant, and I did this deliberately just in case Grant got injured, especially while Cheese is out injured. So I've got Wishart as my backup 5/8 at the moment. As soon as Randall peaks in price, I'm going to flick Wishart up, and I'm going to run the 2 Storm guys as my hookers. That way, I've got a bit of a safety net if anything happens to old Harry Grant. So he's not in my plans, but one thing I noticed with Starling is there's a big contrast in the minutes over the last 2 weeks. Obviously, last week, Trevelyan played off the bench. He took minutes away. In the first week, they didn't have that option, and Hodgson went down quite early, so the minutes were quite high. I want to see what happens this week, obviously, with Matt Frawley playing on the bench. So where does he take minutes from? Does he take minutes in the halves, or does he play like a floating role that some players play now in the forwards, just floating around? Or does he replace Starling and take big minutes off him? Because if he's playing under 60, he's not a buy for me. If he's playing over 65 minutes and definitely 70 minutes, then Starling is a buy because he looks very good.
Yeah, so that's my thinking. If Starling can get good minutes, then I will be picking him up For Supercoach for NRL Fantasy, he's already in my side. I picked him up this week because the scoring is vastly different and he performs quite well. Let's move on. What is next on the run sheet? Let's move on to trade talk. Last week's was interesting. I don't know if this week's can be topped.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to report a trade.
I want to get yours out of the way because I thought I'd be the unpredictable one on this show, but your efforts last week baffled me. So let's hear what the Brew World Order is doing to put out as many spot fires as there are. For a bit of context, you used a trade boost last week, correct?
Yeah.
So you're 3 trades in the hole. What are we doing this week?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I've had a few curveballs thrown this afternoon. So Harry Grant being out is one of those curveballs. David Clemmer is the other curveball. Initially, I was going to sell Fletcher Baker to Max King via Jules by putting Bullimore down. I don't mind Bullimore this week because he plays the Dogs. I'm hoping that maybe he can get some attacking stats and bump up his price rises. So I was going to hold on Bullimore. I will get Max King this week. It's just a matter of who that happens for. I might have to reassess my options though, now that Clemmer's down, because that's a bit of a hit for me. The second trade was I've still got Sean Russell, so I was just going to go straight Sean Russell to Talon May. I know Talon May's a beast bat, like a beast machine. So Tago, May, and Penasini, 3 out of my 4 centers with a relatively highish base was pretty safe for me. And then I'd just keep rolling out Billy Smith until he finally pays the faith to me. So they're probably 2 guys that are definitely coming in is May and King. It's just what I do with the other move now. I could sell Clemmer. To be honest with you, I could turn Clemmer into Payne Haas right now with the cash I've got left, which is definitely an option for me. Payne Haas is a set and forget keeper for the season. I was more so hoping to have Clemmer and Haas as my forward combo. But with the Clemmer information, that's a long out. He only scored 44, I think it was, in round 1. It might just be best to cut ties there and move on.
So out of all that, what is the ones you're locked into and what are the ones that you're thinking of?
So I don't know if I'm going to trade boost again this week. I don't mind doing it because early rounds, I think it's important to set yourself up. I'm definitely getting Max King in. I believe it'll be for Fletcher Baker. And I'm definitely trading out Russell down to Talon May.
Interesting. As for the Ramsey resurgence, we are a trade virgin. We made none last week. And we're making 3 this week. So I was pretty locked into trading David Fifita until 2 minutes past 4 o'clock. So that sort of sent me sideways. I had this big breakdown, this big 5-page breakdown on Twitter as to why I'm selling Fifita over Crichton. And then Trent Robinson decided to play with my emotions. So what we are doing is we are using a trade boost. We are trading out Angus Crichton. We are moving Jai Arrow down from front row forward. We are bringing in Josh King. We are trading out Britton Nakora. RIP Britton Nakora in my side. What a bad play that was. We are moving Isaac Tago from the center wing to the 2RF. We are bringing in Peter Hiku, the boy. And we are also trading out Brad Schneider after his whopping price rise of $0. And we are bringing in Nicholas Hines, who will be my vice captain this week. So pretty much just going Schneider to Hines via David Fifita. The only issues with that, it does leave me with the King Kongs up top as my starting front rowers, Max and Josh. They'll be locking down the big boys in the middle for the next couple of weeks until Snowell Brown's back. But the way Max King is playing off the bench, that is fine. And Josh King is like 50 points. So if I can get 100 points out of those 2, then I will be very, very happy.
Yeah, you'll take 100 points from your front row if that's what you're running out. It's risky, but I can see why you're doing it.
I know why. I saw you squinted your face when I mentioned Peter Hiku. It was between him and Beau Fermor. I don't know. Fermor he just seems like a 30 or a 80 kind of guy. Kick out. Hiku has had 56 points in base power over the last 2 weeks. Has not scored a try. And they just look to be using him a lot. So if I can get some kind of stability in the center wings, then awesome. He has the fullback eligibility as well. That might come in handy over Origin. Who knows? But just worth having note there. So yeah, that's my trades for the week. was going for Fifita, but some stuff has forced my hand, and we're going Crichton. Unfortunately for him, Big Gus just didn't cut the mustard in my side. Moving on to the weekly winners multi. Shout out to Hayden Fox, coach of the Flying Foxes, who top scored the group with 1,130 points. Monster effort from you, Hayden. Well done. That sees him in overall rank of 338. As you guys know, $25 bonus bet on me, and any winnings, just go to you guys. Brewski, he has picked an anytime try scorer multi. He's gone anytime try scorer Daniel Tupou to score against the Rabbitohs. He's gone Viliame Kikau anytime against the Knights. He's gone Xavier Coates anytime against the Eels. David Fifita anytime against the Raiders. And Tom Trbojevic anytime against the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. $25 is going to net him a cool $1,130 profit. Straight to his bank account. Yeah, man. For a free bet, if you can get $1,000 on... The only one I'd be really iffy on there is Viliame Kikau, and Fifita, both being forwards. But yeah, Tupou, Trbojevic, Coates, I mean, all guys that are definitely capable of finding the white line, and then you're taking the punt on Kikau and Fifita. Definitely nice.
Fifita's due. I can see him scoring this week.
God, I hope so. Justify me holding you, please, David. Please. That's going to basically wrap up the run sheet. We've got a couple of questions to finish on. But yeah, apologies for the very poor audio to start with. Brew and I sat down before. We had it all sorted out, and then I must have bumped a button on my mixer here or something, and it just threw it out of whack. But let's get
halfway through the intro.
Oh yeah, lovely.
It just went up.
Let's do some questions, guys. Get them firing in. I do have Pappenhausen, Grant, and I need to zoom in here. Pappenhausen, Grant, and Munster, or I can't have. Basically, this is a common theme. Is it bad having a lot of players from one side? Now, I took a punt and had 5 Roosters to start with in Tedesco, Tupou, Smith, Crichton, and Sam Walker. Roosters obviously didn't come out of the gates firing hot, but I think it's a case of where you take your good players rather than just having them in your side. Like, I'd rather have 5 Storm players than 5 Broncos players.
Yeah, as long as they're from the elite clubs, it's okay to mass own players. Some like towards the back end of the season in particular. I remember a few years ago the Roosters kept winning massive at the SCG, and if you had Morris and Angus and Teddy and I think Tupou at the time as well, then they were getting like 400 or 500 points easily from the game. So it can work, but yeah, use caution if you're taking the entire spine, for example, because that could backfire.
What are our thoughts on Hamuel Olakau'atu? Bloke played fantastically on the weekend. He had 12 tackle busts. He had 32 tackles. Look, I think he was up against Sam Walker, so his 12 tackle busts won't come every week. But yeah, 77 points last week, pretty much all in base. A lot of people are high on Olakau'atu. With Manly's draw, I'd much prefer him over Kikau, and I don't know why he isn't sort of in the top 10.
Kikau's well known, and that would be why people have seen him do it before. So I had Kikau as my number 1 buy this week, Hines number 2, but I had Olakau'atu as number 3. So I had him well before your Hikus and your Kings and whatnot. I really think Olakau'atu's in for a really good season.
As do I. Obviously, you've got Ethan Bullymore in the back row. Josh Houston's still out for a little bit, so you'd think Desi might be using him a bit more. Manly have that fantastic draw as well, and we saw the attacking output that he had when Manly just turned it on after Origin as well last year. I think he averaged nearly 70 points a game, so there's definitely some value there. Is Nat Butcher a quick 2-week grab, or is it just not worth the trades? I'm worried about his stability in the side. Obviously, the 114 points is going to be in the rolling average for the next 3 weeks, but there is a lot of question marks over his spot in the side. Angus Crichton is there. He won't be on the bench for too long, and it's, 2 trades, 1 to get him in, 1 to get him out. As the Chooks fan, I think you'd be in agreement with me here. It's just too risky. Like, he could be dropped game day.
When I saw the team sheet, that was the first thing that crossed my mind. I was like, shit, do I go Angus to Butcher and power play this? But you're right, it does. It takes a trade in, it takes a trade out. And if you get yourself in a situation where we have a round, like even if it's similar to this round where, you wouldn't have thought that Angus would be benched. You wouldn't have thought that Harry Grant would be out with COVID. Like, all the news was that Clemmer was returning this week. I lost 3 guys on the team sheets today, and that just throws trades right out the window. So if those things happen, you can get stuck with people. So for that reason, I probably would avoid Butcher, but there's probably some people that are even riskier than I am with this game, and they might do it. And make some fast cash, and it could pay off for him. So, who
Yeah.
knows?
I've got 4 injuries, but they're nowhere near as dreadful as yours. I think mine are Jermaine Tennell-Brown, Vela, Russell. And that's it. I've only got 3.
I've
5.
got all them too.
Yeah, and then you've got Clemmer and Grant and like the likes of that. Hey Josh, hey Brew, it's good to be back. Do you like my trades of Andrew Fifita to Max King and Angus Crichton to Isaiah Yeo?
Yes.
I don't know. This sounds really silly because he's had 2 great scores, but like I want to see what Yeo does with Cleary back in the side. Like I feel like it's a lot of responsibilities being put on Isaiah Yeo's shoulders. And does that come off when Cleary's back? Does he go back to what he was doing last year? Which isn't terrible, but it's just not the numbers he's putting up this year.
I don't know. He's playing inspired footy at the moment, and I can't see Cleary coming back 100% all in straight away from the get-go. I think he'll ease back in a little bit. So it's kind of now or never, I think, for Yowie Power. So if you're going to do it now at 500. And otherwise, you could be waiting and you'd be 650. So he's safe. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get a bloke that's safe in your forwards.
Yeah, I get that.
Nothing wrong with it.
Is it just a tad sideways though? When like you can just maybe go a bit more ceiling. We'll do one more question for the podcast, and then we'll answer all the other questions live on YouTube exclusively. And I reckon we pick out thoughts on. Let me zoom in. Thoughts on Crichton and Hastings out for Nico and Josh King in, or Talon. And then I think this feeds into another question that we had. Is Josh King going to be the next Spencer Leniu when Brandon Smith comes back, being a relevant 25, 30-point guy off the bench? So Crichton out, Hastings out for Nico Hines and Josh King. Very similar to what I'm doing. But yeah, is Hines a must-have, or is he a guy that's more of a luxury moving down from a Crichton or a Fifita?
Probably is a luxury. It's an interesting one. I'm trying to see the question on the screen. Who asked the question?
No, it's well gone. It's basically it's Josh King in and Hines in for Crichton.
I can see Josh King becoming a problem.
Yeah.
I know he's highly talked about, but he's played for multiple clubs, and yeah, he's doing okay at the moment for Melbourne. But you know, Smith is Smith. Like even if he's leaving the club, he needs his place in the side, and you know, the bench probably doesn't help. You know, Alec McDonald's been playing really well, and I'm not saying there's not a spot on the bench for King, but I don't think there's going to be a starting spot there for him.
I reckon that is going to do it for the podcast version of this. As we said on Sunday, if you want to catch us answering more questions, more in detail, make sure you head over to the YouTube for the live streams. Yeah, I'm pretty vocal about when I post them. But for all the podcast listeners, thank you very much. I've been the SC Whisperer. I've been joined by Brew SC. This has been the Dual Position Podcast, Round 3 preview. Good luck this weekend, guys.
Ciao for now.
All right, podcast is done, ladies and gentlemen. Whoever has given a shit about our ranks in the chat, man, come on. Brutal. It's been 2 weeks. I reckon anyone that's like up high in the rankings either started phenomenally or has a very thin side. I'm 130 points outside the top 1K, so I'm not fast. I don't think you're too far behind me either. I think you ranked 100 points lower than I did last week, so you are very much not off the pace. Blake Brayley. Let's talk Blake Brayley, because he's had 2 really good scores. He's looking really promising. He's looking full of potential as to what we saw from him in his early junior days. Running the ball more. Has Fitzy got the best out of him? Braden Trindle's named on the bench. Cameron McInnes is named on the bench. Like 2 guys that could probably fill in through 9. Do we want to...
Well, 26 isn't bad, you know.
I know, but do we want to give him time to see what it looks like with Trindle and McInnes in the side? Like, I feel like it's a tad punty. He's gonna make money this week, but I feel like it's a tad punty with Trindle and McInnes on the bench.
This is what I'm not sure about when it comes to the Sharks. How do you drop Finucane the way that Finucane is playing for McInnes? But McInnes after the game last week hinted at the fact he was going to play for 80.
90 for 90 tackles for Finucane. Like, he hasn't missed a tackle.
Did anyone hear that? After the game
we
when
all
they were
heard you.
interviewing McInnes, he said, you know, that I'm not back playing 80 yet, was what he said. And I don't see... I don't know where these minutes are going to come from, to be honest, when you've got Finucane and you've got McInnes. You know, if he's playing bulk minutes. I don't know, to be honest with you. Blake, I reckon Blake will keep playing big minutes.
I'm just worried about Braden Trindle on the bench. Like, if McInnes is going to play 80 like he reckons, then there's got to be some rotation through hooker if they're going to carry, what's his name, Briley. I'm just looking at their bench makeup now. So you've got Toby Rudolph and Braden Hamlin-Uele. I think Braden Hamlin-Uele drops out. Dale Finucane moves to prop. McInnes comes to 13. This is when McInnes is fully fit. Then you would expect Fifita to drop out. You'd think they'd carry Hamlin-Uele and Aiden Tolman off the bench. I mean, Rudolph can play 55, 60 plus. He did it when he was playing 13. Finucane, we've seen, can play big minutes. Like, yeah, this Sharks rotation sort of sending me for 6 a little bit. So, Bradley looks fantastic. I'm just worried about where all these minutes are coming from because there's a lot of mouths to feed at the Sharks. And that was sort of our analysis on the preseason. We were worried about taking any of these Sharks forwards because of the rotation is just going to be too awkward. I really hope Fitzgibbon keeps playing McInnes off for 20 minutes off the bench for the next 6 weeks. That'd be fantastic. And then we'll pick him up for 400K. That'd be ideal.
Sounds very good. I think Blake's a buy personally. If you want to take that punt, I support it.
I'd prefer Blake over Appy. He's cheaper.
I would prefer Blake over Appy too.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. What are we up to? Teddy or Haas, which one to captain?
I'd go safe on Payne Haas.
Yeah, so would I think. I don't think Teddy's the right... I think Teddy's fullback 3. Actually, fullback 4 in captaincy this week. You've got Hines at 1, Turbo at 1, Hines at 2, Pappy at 3. I think there's better options at fullback to captain, so I would go that. Is it worth upgrading to Gagai? Is it worth upgrading to Gagai? We've already touched on this in the sort of the buy things. I'm a no, and I think you're a no as well, Brew.
Who are you upgrading?
Yeah. Whoever asked that question, let us know who you're upgrading to get to Gagai, and we will answer it before we finish up at about 8 o'clock. Tino for current and Stags for... Who's that? Hiko or Firma? So Tino,
I personally am holding Stags.
I'm moving on Tino.
Tino for current, yes.
But I think they'd have to go Stag. By the looks of this, they'd have to move down money. So you'd have to sell Stags to get current. In which case, I probably wouldn't. Not with the Broncos. Not with the Broncos draw. Like, the Broncos draw coming up is pretty good.
Olakau'atu doesn't cost much more than Tino.
Yeah, I'd go Olakau'atu.
Satili Tupanua is cheaper.
Yeah, Satili's there too. I mean, I know he's performed
There's
bad,
options.
but like Britton Okoro is surely got to come good eventually. Like the Sharks have a pretty good draw coming up, and I don't know. There's a lot of options in that sort of 450 to 550K back row position. I've got none of them. I've gone really expensive and really cheap. But yeah, there's plenty of guys there. How much money are we leaving on the table upgrading Schneider to Hines instead of Walker to Hines? Now, I've got this question a lot, and this one's directed at me, but you can give your 2 cents. I cannot sell Sam Walker with the Roosters draw. They play bottom feeders for the next 8 weeks. They play absolute scrubs. I know we're leaving a lot of money on the table. We're leaving, what do you reckon, 250K, 300K maybe on the table. Like Schneider could go up to 450K. So there's 270K I'm leaving behind. But what's more important, Hines or 270K?
It's interesting. I think it depends on what type of gameplay you are. If you chase the points, then obviously the answer's easy. Take Hines and Walker. They've both got very high upside and make you cash another way. That's how I play the game personally. If you play it safe and, you accumulate your funds, then you would upgrade Walker to Hines and you would slowly, get Schneider up, and then you would end up moving Schneider up to another gun, I guess, or cashing him out altogether and putting the funds elsewhere. It depends on your gameplay.
This is the reason why I'm not selling Sam Walker. The Bunnies this week, not ideal. The Cowboys next week. The Broncos the week after. The Warriors the week after. The Dragons the week after. The Bulldogs the week after that. The Titans the week after that. And then we finish up with Parramatta in round 10. Like, it's just full of really bad teams that can concede a lot of points And that's the reason why I'm not selling Sam Walker. Like, I'm never going to play Brad Schneider. The way that my bench is set up, I will never play him. I have 2 or 3 better options that don't make my side as it is. I mean, Chris Randall didn't make my side last week, so Brad Schneider's not making it over Randall. I get it, but he's not going to make money for another 2 weeks. And Fogarty's back round 11? So we're going to get a couple of price rises out of him, but he's not going to rise until round 5, and then I don't know. Just Sam Walker's playing a bunch of bottom feeders that I'd rather cash in on. A couple more questions, and we will finish up. This one's been asked plenty of times, so yeah, you go. You got better eyesight than I do, so you start firing them out.
Trade Momorowski for who? Tabuai? Is that who they're asking?
Trade Momorowski for Tubai. I'm assuming that's Tabuai.
For Doe? No, I wouldn't do that.
No, I wouldn't do that either. I'd rather take the winger on the better side and the fullback in a really poor attacking side.
And then we got what? Woody, your mum, back again.
Hines for Gutherson? No.
No.
With Parramatta's draw.
Gutho's playing good. If they're playing good, why sell them?
And if Moses' cork is something serious and Gutho's kicking for the next couple of weeks, and that's something to note as well.
I'm trying to fire a few out here.
Have $450,000 for a centre wing or a 2RF. Who are we going? $450K. God, let me pull up the SuperCoach app and get some filters out, and then I might be able to give some kind of accurate representation, because $450K is a kind of a really, really awkward price bracket in terms of, I think 50K more, it opens up a lot. Let's just filter it by 500 and we'll go from there. So centre wing, you got T. Wilton when he comes back, obviously. Campbell Graham's an interesting one. With South draw opening up, as much as we love Latrell and Cody and all that, when their draw opens up, Campbell Graham or even like a Jackson Paulo playing on the wing isn't too bad. I've seen a lot of love for Corey Oates. I can't get behind it, but I don't know. What do you think on Corey Oates? Averaging 61.5, scores of 69, and then 40 something, pretty much all in base. The first week. Jai Arrow's 457K, and Liam Martin's 430. But apart, you're kind of just at bottom feeders here. Both Fermor's probably the pick of the bunch there. Brew's off in the chat with the fairies. Let's just answer this.
You won't shut up, so I'm answering questions.
No, I was stalling for time while you were pulling stuff up. Last one, good trade out for Fifita to Alagi. This one's been asked a million times, so let me just quickly get it. Fifita to Alagi Stags for Hamwall. What? I don't know. You've asked this question 7 times and I can't decipher it, so I don't care. This show would be so much better if it was just Brew hosting. I agree, but Brew's got no technical capabilities, so he can't do shit unless I'm here. No way, Brew. You're ranked 77,000th. You can't host a show, apparently, because your rank defines who you are as a person, apparently. Anyway, Brew's off with the fairies, right. So I'm...
There's 25 rounds in a season, not 2.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm answering the questions in the chat.
I'm just waiting for you, bro. I'm waiting for you to read some out. Captain options.
I can read some out.
Captain options we've touched on, man. You got to be here earlier.
You can captain Haas to that person. All right, where are we? Fifita and Crichton to Frizzell and Olakawatu frees me up to bring in Cleary in 2 weeks. Okay, do it.
I don't know, man. Like, Cleary worries me. Just go Hines. Hines has proven he can do it in this new game, and Cleary hasn't. So just go Hines.
It's Cleary. Of course he's going to bloody do it. If he's fit, he's going to...
Yeah, but he's had a shoulder reconstruction.
Whatever Hines is averaging, Cleary will average it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But Cleary's $1 million and Hines is like sub 700.
I did, Moz. That's how I play the game. I've had good years. I've had really bad years, and it all comes down to how I play the game. So that's all right. I'm determined to fight back. People can give me shit if they want.
The one thing that's interesting is with ranks, especially now. Like, my rank is 39,000th. I'm 130 points outside the top 1K. Like, ranks mean nothing right now. If you're still 77,000th come round 10, we might have some words. I might have to rip up the contract, but mate, like, it means nothing right now. And people that
rip
fuss
my own
over,
contract up.
people that fuss over ranks after round 2, man, like just uppercut yourself.
I do need 4 trades in my front row forward. I really do. I fucked that up royally.
I feel you there, bro. I'm starting both kings, so I fucking feel you right there.
No, we need a mod to ban that fella that was trolling in here before.
Oh no,
That's why I was distracted. I'm like, who's this fucking bloke?
I'm all for it.
Not when they're trolling me. Fuck off.
No, let it be. Like, if they're sad enough, man, if they're sad enough to come on here and fucking give me shit, go for it. I don't care. I got the click from you. That's all I care about. That's it. That's
True.
it. That's it.
I'm
Matt
trying
Groves.
to find a couple of quick more questions. Here's a good one. Hastings to Hines or Munster?
That's not.
That's a very difficult question.
No, it's not.
You're going to say Nico Hines,
Oh,
right?
every day, twice on Sundays. Mate, I've waved the white flag. I'm Nico Hines' #1 fan. You've taken over my boy.
You're not.
No, you've taken over my boy Harry Grant. So I've got to have someone, and I'll go Harry Grant. No, I won't go. I'll go Nico Hines. I don't know. It just that base is just fucking ridiculous. And like Munster,
It is, and he's
Munster
got
has
the
to
goal
compete.
kicking if
Yeah,
you can slot him over.
Munster has to compete with Hughes, Pappenhausen, and Grant, and Hines is competing with Matt Moylan. Like he's getting so much usage out of the ball.
All right, I'll just see if there's any other quick ones I can fire out here.
Hey, the last question is exactly my mentality. They're watching our streams, so we win. But I reckon that's going to wrap it up, Brew. Brew, you look like Ben Kennedy.
Oh, I've heard Bruce Willis. I've heard Ben Kennedy. My brother calls me buddy Chris Lynn.
Stuart Wallace,
So-
what question? And I'll answer it before I finish up. How much of a risk is it to getting Talon made this week? At 250k, I mean, there's very little risk, but like, is there better options that we can make?
Oh, look, he's not going to move in price, so you don't have to do that move this week. I know he's a high impact type of player. He's a lot like Tago and Penasini, but like that version on steroids. So he should get a lot of touches. He should have a really solid base. I'm just going to take him right from the get-go. I don't think he's going to lose that jersey. We know that To'o's out for the next 10 weeks, basically. So I'm taking it and I'm running with it so that I can get in front of everyone else.
I thought I would be able to do... Yeah, no, I'm stuck with Josh King, unfortunately. I was thinking I could maybe do Talon May in over Josh King, but then I'm pretty sure I'm short at 2RF because I was going to move Gyro down to cover that, so that's not ideal. Hastings is fighting a judicial charge if he wins, so I still trade or get rid of Man. So if Hastings is fine to play, which I don't think he is, I think he's out. I think he's out for 2 weeks regardless. Is Billy Smith to May the play? And what do we do with Jason Tamalolo?
No.
We touched on Jason Tamalolo already. Sorry, I'll give my 2 cents. If we're trading in May, we trade him in for Russell, not for Billy Smith. And Jason Tamalolo, bro, he's like scoring mid-50s and he's like not fit, so just chill. Like he'll come good.
Tamalolo is not a sell. His minutes will increase. Like I said it the last 2 weeks, I think, on this podcast, wait till he plays a game outside of North Queensland. Like we saw what happened last week in the other Queensland game. Dave Fifita got a rest because they were just rooted. Matt Lodge was on the sidelines having a chunder. Like
There was a drinks break.
those conditions aren't easy
Like
to play in.
Yeah, it shows
Once
you.
the weather cools down, which it will, the Lolo's minutes will go up. I'm positive he'll end up going back to 65 minutes. There's too much press and too much media, and there's too much pressure on that coach for him not to do it. Like stuff the 10-year contract, you need wins, and that's what the currency of the game is. It's winning, and if Tamalolo playing big minutes means that you get more wins, like look at Payne Haas. Payne Haas got rorted with his minutes last year. This year he's back to 70 minutes. I think the same thing will happen in North Queensland. I wouldn't sell.
Someone said I look like Chris Randall. Jeez, that's an insult to Chris Randall. I'm a 3 and
Josh looks like a Mexican.
Hey, all right. I reckon that's gonna wrap it up. We're sort of waffling. Someone said who would we rather keep, Sam Walker or Teddy? Don't ask that question. It's Teddy all day long. Whisperer, what is your plan to Cleary if you keep Hines and Walker? What is your long-term strategy at halfback? Dylan Brown to Nathan Cleary, because Sam Walker is going to pick up dual eligibility in 6 weeks. So we will shift Walker down to 5. But I'm not going to keep Walker long term. Like Walker's out before Origin. The Roosters draw doesn't. I think it ends after round 10. I have to have a look. But Sam Walker isn't a long term.
It does get harder, the Roosters draw.
Sam Walker,
the Origin period is hard.
He's not a long term play for me. He is probably a play until round 10. What I am looking at doing will be getting in Cody Walker for Dylan Brown, probably up round 5. That'll be my play. And then we might try and move on Sam Walker. But that's the thing, like, before I finish up, I'm not going to get Cleary before Origin. I'm pretty set on that. There's not a chance in the world that I can make enough money to get... What are you chuckling at?
Troy.
Oh, what's he said? A Mexican that supports the Sharks. No, I don't support the Sharks. Fuck the Sharks. Anyway, so what I was saying is my plan, long-term, for the one that I asked, is Dillbags to Cody Walker after Cody Walker drops 200k, and hopefully Dylan Brown just holds his place. But I'm not going to be able to free up enough money to get Cleary. Like, I just don't have enough. I don't have $1 million just lying around to get him in. So I get him post Origin and go from there. But yeah, that's going to be kind of it. I'll be hanging around the comments for the next 20 minutes. I've got 50 unread messages on Instagram to reply to. So if you have any other questions, message me on Instagram. You know where to find me. Talk to Brew on Twitter. Argue with him. You'll get a fight out of him. Always good for an argument on Twitter, aren't you, Brew?
I am.
All right, legends, I appreciate you joining in, whether you're going to give me crap for our ranks or you're here to support the content. I'm happy either way, as long as you're here interacting. That's all I care about. I've been the SC Whisperer, coach of the Ramsey Resurgence, and Brew has been coach of the Brew World Order. Let's hope that we come back here, mate, on Sunday with some 1,200 scores to our names. Ryan Pappenhausen's going to score 140. Nico Hines is going to break Tebo's record. He's going to go off 240, and I'm going to loop that. And yeah, I'll be first overall for this week, mate.
Rob C, I've answered you 3 times. Yes, he's on the right wing.
All right.
Before I go. All right. And see you later.
Bye. Oh, what a stream this was. Bye.